okay? Like, what happened?
My hairline started receding when I started getting into the entrepreneur world, and it just disappeared.
Oh, dude, I was at my barber the other day, and he's like, "Man, your beard is like completely white almost." And I was like, I had a lady at the DMV. She was like, she looked at my license. I had no beard, and it was from 7 years ago. And she just goes, "What happened?" And I was like, "Yeah, fuck you, lady."
Yeah, right. What are you supposed to say to that?
Happened to you, man. I
Kevin,
don't know
Golly.
what English.
you should dress up as Santa Claus and ask people what they want for Christmas.
There you
Well,
go.
you should come fucking sit on my knee, motherfucker.
Added amenity on the boat rides. Have Santa be your captain.
Can we put Santa on the electric boat rides?
God, I'm getting so fat. I'm gonna fucking really look like him, man. I'm doing some Ozempic to try and slim down before the thing, so my pants fucking fit. I'll be wearing sweatpants up there this year.
I just put on my suit, and it's like, oh shit, I got a month before I got to wear this thing. I haven't eaten today, just drinking my coffee. It'll be good.
Man, Eric, thank you for joining us, man. How you doing?
Damn good, man. People ask me all the time. I can't complain. It's all good things. We're scaling as fast as we can, hiring as fast as we can, training. I'm just trying to get all the information out of my brain into other salesmen. We just hired a sales manager and 4 product specialists to go around with us to events. We literally have a dozen events scheduled in the next 2 months, literally every single weekend, sometimes midweek. Yeah, it's a lot. But I've got like 14 employees to rotate through that, and I'm going to be in Europe for half of it. So hopefully it goes okay.
Well, Europe for fun or for business?
France Boat Show. We've got a lot of people that we're going to start doing work with in Europe, and that's like their highlight show. I wasn't planning on going to it, but my business partner had a super cheap Airbnb, and I'm going to Monaco October 21st. I'm presenting about our marina there and the electric boat market in the US. And it's an hour away. I was already going for that. And so kind of couldn't turn it down. I've never even been to Europe. So it's going to be fun.
We have a lot to unpack on this show, and Eric, this is your second time on the AWG, and the first time we kind of did like a round table on
tandem kind of thing,
electric boat market. But now you're going to be partnering with us at the port here in October. We're going to be doing some electric boat rides, some demos. And really, we wanted to bring you on the show to kind of just give us like what is happening, because the electric car market is like really blowing up.
Before we do that, first maybe a little bit of background, but then I also feel like you've really, man, like I feel like since the last show you came on, you were renting electric boats. And you were still in the process of developing your marina, but now you're in sales. Like, I feel like a lot of things have changed since. So, like, let's catch up with you, man. Like, give us a little bit of background. And since last time you're on the show, like, what you have going on, because it feels like a lot.
It is. So I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I mean, literally selling Pokemon cards, landscaping business. I mean, I tell people I was selling porn on floppy disks, literally at like 8, 9 years old. And come to find out the market really isn't there because kids in elementary school were afraid of it. But I made a couple. Anyway. Started life as a mechanic, worked for BMW as a tech for a while. Somebody gave me Rich Dad, Poor Dad, thankfully. Started buying single family homes, doing the Burr method. Got in with Tesla early on, 2012 to 2021, everything from technician to management, program management for like charging infrastructure, their mobile service program. I was a mobile technician for them. I was one of the first. So I kind of helped set up that program. We were collecting real estate the entire time, just like a single family home at a time, got into multifamily. It got to the point where we had enough rental revenue to where I could afford to quit my job in 2021. I didn't know what I was going to do. We took a 2-month hiatus and drove around the country in a camper. We ended up investing in a plant-based deli. We helped open the brick and mortar there. That's been going on, 3 years now. And then I was looking into larger multifamily real estate with this business partner at the time, and we hadn't done any deals yet. We were looking at big 20, 30 unit multifamily stuff. And she found this small marina. It was 16 slips, had a triplex on site. It was like listed at 1.5, and you could rent everything at market rate and it wouldn't even pay for itself. And so we started looking and see what we could do. We got it under contract, not knowing what the hell we were going to do with it, but it was a super unique property, nothing like it in the area. Doing our due diligence, we tried houseboats. The city said no way. Then we found somebody renting little Duffy electric boats, and so we tried partnering with her. It didn't work out. We found Vision Marine, which was what we thought were better rental boats with better batteries, simpler, cheaper. And we literally reached out to Vision Marine. We said, hey, we want to buy a few boats. We bought 4, and actually before they even let us buy them, they said, oh, you're a dealer, right? And we said, no. We looked into it, a couple $100 later worth of annual fees, and now we became a dealer. I didn't have much sales in my background. I could talk to anybody, but I was never like this closer, this full-on salesman. And so end of 2022, we closed on the marina, too late to have a rental operation. We took those boats, went to a couple boat shows, wasted like 40 grand going to boat shows between Miami, a bunch of stuff here in the mid-Atlantic. Didn't sell any fucking boats. It was not good. And then boat shows.
What year was that you were trying to sell boats at the boat shows?
End of 2022. But I mean, with electric boats, it's all about the experience. Imagine your first ride in the electric car. Without that, you wouldn't have known the uniqueness of it, the experience of it. At Tesla, we called it butts in seats. With Electrified Marina, we call it butts in boats.
2022 was bad though. Like my partner was selling boats, like just regular boats. And their sales were, I remember in 2022, he was just like, God, between like not having inventory and just constant supply chain problems. Like I remember him saying like 2022. So I'm just saying, don't beat yourself up too hard.
We had no email campaign. We had no like sales strategy, like literally none of it. We were winging it. And we wasted a lot of money. Literally, I'm shoveling from my savings into the company every pay period just to keep things afloat. 2023, we jumped into the rental game. We had 6 rental boats. Didn't even have enough parking for all 6. But we were just buying up cheap boats from Vision Marine out of their rental fleet in Newport Beach. And they were doing it there, absolutely killing it, printing money. And they still are with 30 boats in the water. But, these boats, they've got no maintenance. You can charge about the same hourly rate as the next guy renting, $30,000, $40,000 pontoons. And these don't go out half day or full day. It's like 2 to 3 hours. Our average rental is about 2.5 hours. So it's all about the experience. It's not so much the commodity side of boat rentals. It's the brunch, the birthday party, bachelorette party, anniversary, and we really started tackling that experience side of things. And we partnered with the local breweries, the wineries, the brunch spot, and they were upsells. I mean, there were amenities on our pages, and you could, if you're booking your anniversary, there's a little drop down button for the local winery. You can hit and have, a bottle of wine and a charcuterie board ready for you at the boat rental when you get there. And so we didn't get the liquor license, but we just partnered with people that had it just to make it available. So that went pretty good last year. I mean, we had some weekends we were sold out. We did okay. We wasted a bunch of marketing dollars throwing money at social media, and it wasn't sticking. And then we started selling a couple boats, some of the smaller ones. We really didn't take off in sales until this past fall. We really started hitting it hard. I hired a couple more people. We, got a sales strategy down, an email campaign, tracking a lot of our metrics. We really started getting organized. And I mean, it was I had 2 partners that wanted to shut down the business, and me and my partner Aaron wanted to keep it going. And we were the crazy aggressive ones, and our spouses were the ones that wanted to rein us in. And I literally told him, I'll buy you out. If you don't believe in this, I believe in it, and it's going to keep going. And I ended up buying out one of my partners. So I'm own 3/4 of it now. Sales really ramped up this past fall and this winter. We've delivered 3 X-Shores now. We've got a couple leads out there. We've delivered a couple dozen of the Taiga jet skis. Those were doing really well for us there for a little bit.
Back up, slow down. You sold, what are they called? X-Taiga?
X-Shore is the bigger center console boats that we have. They're from Sweden. They're really the first to market in terms of higher speed electric boats. So that's the 26-foot center console, and then they've got a 21-footer that's a cuddy cabin. The 21-footer starts at 150 grand. The big one's 300 grand.
I'm gonna first have to get you into like some sales training here first, man.
Yeah, well, I haven't had literally 0 minutes of sales training.
Eric, listen, he gives me shit all the time. So
I do. And listen, and Steve gives me shit. You know what I mean? Like I got him critiquing me when I'm out there pitching. We got to talk. It's got to it's tough because as there's one side of you that's an entrepreneur and you're really excited about the product. And I think that shines through. But I need to take a pause here because, so how many passengers is that? Like, what's the beam on it? Like, how fast does it go? Give me a little bit of background. But I'm not asking you to sell me a boat. I'm just interested. And as I think, like, anybody who runs a rental market, right? Because I think most of us, we eyeball boats, right? Like, so depending on market, depending on hull type, depending on capacity, power, all these things, I think those of us who are in the rental market, we look at a boat and then like our brain just immediately goes like, what's this going to rent for? Who's going to be my target on this? Like where, because people ask me about boat rentals all the time because people are like, oh, I'm like interested in getting a bunch of pontoon boats and putting them in the water. And I'm kind of like, with 60 horsepower engines, and I'm like, all right, well, where are you putting these things? That's going to be first. You know, it's like, oh, right, like New Jersey off the Atlantic. I'm like, oh, maybe not going to be the type of boat rental because your waters, as kind of like you and I talked about on the phone, well, kind of like going to dictate what kind of boat and the market, right? The water's in the market of what people are looking for. Like Miami is not like a big pontoon boat rental, but there's a ton of yachts. So this particular, what's it called again?
X-Shore, and then Shore, S-H-O-R-E. So those aren't good boat rentals at all. They're too expensive. No, they don't have the range. If you had a fast charger, I'm talking like a $80,000 fast charger on a dock in a marina. There's 5 in the country right now. I have 3 in my garage that I'm getting ready to get out there. But it's so early on. They're not the best boat rental. When we would rent that out, we would do like a 4 or 6 hour rental, but 2/3 of that time would be either at the sandbar, it'd be beached at one of the beaches right here, or you'd be at a restaurant. So it's really only 2 to 3 hours of actual boating because that's all you can do in it. Battery tech right now is so early on. The energy density is about 1/8 of gasoline. So even in that $300,000 boat, it's up there in terms of the electric boats. There's Voltari that's above that. That's $450,000 with like 10% more battery. Even with 126 kilowatt hours, so that's equivalent to like a Rivian, a Ford Lightning, or a Cybertruck in terms of battery capacity. At planing speeds, you're only getting an hour and a half to 2 hours out of the thing at 20 miles an hour. It's just not a lot. Battery tech isn't there. But we're selling those things to people that don't need that much range. It's a lake boat, or they're staying right in their bay area where they go 4 miles to the sandbar, 3 miles to the restaurant, and 5 miles back,
So for somebody like that to drop $300,000 on this kind of boat, like what's the upside for them? Like why did these particular customers buy this so seemingly expensive boat? I mean, you can spend a lot of money on a boat. $300,000 ain't shit, we all know, but for a pleasure craft that you're doing partially.
Yeah, it's all different demographics, man. The last guy I just delivered one to, he had a 1989 Baja with dual 454s, but he stayed here in Virginia Beach like 3 months out of the year. He would literally pay somebody to come get his boat going before he got here because of the maintenance was so bad on it. And he's an early Tesla guy, money wasn't a variable. And he just wanted a boat that would start every time. And he's had it a month now and absolutely loves it. We delivered one to a guy in Maryland, just an early adopter guy. Funny enough, I knew him from 10 years ago when I worked at Tesla. And he's willing, he's in Graysonville, like Annapolis, the Kent Island area. And the longest day he'll do is 20 miles. He's not going, deep sea fishing in the Chesapeake Bay or in the ocean. He's literally just island hopping right in his little area. And I think once you find those right use cases, whether it's the lake boat or those guys that are just day boaters, they're not even spending a weekend on the boat and their body of water is in a reasonable range that's under 30, 40 miles an hour, it becomes a really good fit. But that guy never even owned a power boat. So it's interesting. 1/5 of our customers we've sold to have never owned a power boat before. They're either sailboaters or first-time boat owners that never wanted to deal with the headaches of a gas engine.
Do these things have like cool like LEDs like Teslas do? Like you like look at it and you're like, oh my god, it's like, hello Kevin, you get on it and then no.
So it's got a mobile app for it, so you can start it from the phone. It's got a Garmin watch that you can pair to it, and it's got this Garmin screen. I don't know, it's like 20 inches, 30 inches. It's massive. It's like what you'd expect on a yacht. But in terms of rentals, they're not good rental boats. The little cocktail boats, the Vision Marine picnic boats, those are amazing rental boats. Those are brand new. They're $40,000 to $60,000.
Is that what you're bringing down to the port?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Before we get into that, like, why don't we talk about that portion of a little bit? So, without, I don't want to derail you, but we really haven't talked. I mean, we jumped back and forth through email. So, like, so what are we going to be doing at the port with these boats? How long of boats are we running? Like, what's the plan look like for them?
So honestly, it's still up in the air what boats we're bringing. I'm working with different manufacturers to see who wants to get their boats out there. Whether it's a Duffy that has been around for 50 years, we're in talks with them to become a dealer for them. Vision Marine has the Fantail, which is a 21-foot boat. That's what most of our rental fleet's comprised of. And they're the kind of the perfect rental boats. They start at 40,000 new up to 60 grand if you get the winter enclosures and bottom paint and everything else. But once you've made that initial investment, you don't have a lot of maintenance after that, in terms of repairs or tune-ups or anything. I've got boats in my rental fleet that are 8 years old, and that's 8-year-old rental boats. You used and abused every single day. And these are getting run out of LA and California. So it's not like they turn off in the winter and get put up 6 months out of the year. And so we've got batteries that are 8 years old in our fleet in 3 different boats that are 7 and 8 years old. And they're performing amazingly well. We can still get about 6 hours of runtime out of them. And it's rare that we get 6 hours worth of bookings on one boat in a single day. I mean, the people's schedules have to line up. And so you end up, charging it in between rentals. All of those boats only use a 110 outlet. So there's 2 boats from Vision Marine. The Fantail, which is the longer one, kind of looks like a gondola style boat. It's only got 20 inches of draft on that thing. That one's a little more narrow, but people love it for, just the booze cruise, the cocktail cruise. Half the time they're not swimming when they're on that thing. They're just literally out there for a 2-hour experience, get their Instagram pictures and get off.
How many people can it hold?
So it says you can fit 10, but it's like 1,800 pounds. So you just need skinny people. We don't say 10 in Virginia because you're not fitting 10 Virginians on there. We say 8, and eight is pushing it sometimes. We've had a couple where we've had to give them a second boat just so we didn't hurt feelings.
Eric, I got two questions. The first is, I mean, I don't know if this applies to boats, but like I've been running an electric lawnmower for close to 7-8 years. One of the problems is that I can only run the electric lawnmower for 30 minutes. Until it craps out because of the heat.
Because you got a crappy one, dude. You got to get an ego, man.
This is the batteries they get hot and it just shuts off. So I'm just curious if is that solved? Is that even an issue?
It's not an issue at all, man. Okay. The amperage that these things put out, they're 48 volts, so similar to golf cart style electrical systems. In the beginning, I was struggling to find a tech to work on this stuff. I just didn't have the time to. And we literally had 2 different golf cart mechanics work on these things. It was pretty cool. And Duffy's been doing them forever. Duffy's been out for 50 years. They've sold a couple thousand, but 99% of their sales are in Newport Beach. Yeah. The problem is those are like old school lead acid, these massive 6-volt golf cart batteries. And it is, 500 pounds worth of batteries, just a ton of weight, but it helps with the ballast of those boats. But Duffy just came out with one that has lithium iron phosphate in it. So they're finally getting up with the times.
Have you done a cost analysis compared to like taking one of your electric boats, comparing it to maybe like a 20-foot pontoon boat and said, okay, here are the costs to run this boat and maybe estimate maintenance but like fuel. Have you done a cost analysis comparing the two?
So my plan is to do that before the event and have that data prepared. I'm pulling data from a buddy that owns a Freedom Boat Club and a Carefree Boat Club to look at their numbers. But I'm going to reach out to some of the operators in the group to see if they'll share their numbers, because I fill these things up for literally $5 a day in electricity. They can run all day long. The newer ones can run 8 hours. The older ones are 6 hours. But when you plug it in between rentals, you can still get 8 hours out of it. But the batteries are going to last 10, 15, 20 years. That's not even something I really factor in because we probably won't own the boat that long. But I mean, it's so funny because my team slacks on bottom cleaning, and that's the only maintenance we have is that and cleaning the top of the boat. There's wear and tear, from the canvas or the upholstery. But other than that, it's a 360-degree bumper. Like the fenders stay on all the time. There's really no moving parts to go bad on these things. There's no oil in the motor. It's a little 5 horsepower pod motor that goes up underneath the thing.
Well, I can tell you one portion of it. Like at least here in town, most of our boats are 60, 70 horse, and if you're like if you're running, man, I've put like on average, like sometimes it's wild. We'll put a Yamaha, we'll put the computer on it and pull up the engine hours on it, and it's like, man, oh my god, we put almost 1,000 hours on this season. So
in one season.
Yeah, in one season. And so, I mean, like at most, on average, if I had to, because sometimes we'll get more out of them, they'll last 4 or 5 years. Sometimes they go 1 year and they're gone. But I would say on average, 3 years for a comparable pontoon boat rental. That's obviously not a 150 or a 200 or something like that, but about 3 years. And right now, I think engine costs on a 70 are around $8,000.
So I could replace the 3 batteries and the electric motor for $7,000. My cost would be like $5,000.
How long do you have to do that?
15, 20 years. They're rated for 3,000 cycles. So quick math, 300 cycles per year at 10 years. You're getting 10 years out of it for 300 cycles.
What's a cycle? What's the length of a cycle?
Full discharge to recharge. So if you ran it all day long, it realistically should be 15, 20 years on those batteries. And they're low amperage. They're 48 volt. They're not putting out more than 100 amps. So things don't get hot. So you don't need the active cooling like you do on the high voltage stuff. Once you get up above, a couple hundred volts, that's when the amperage starts getting higher horsepower. That's when you need a cooling system and stuff gets more complex.
And these are all fiberglass, yeah?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, I saw pictures. They're pretty boats. Eric, tell us about like the greater, just the electric motor industry. We're talking, vehicles, boats. Like, I'm seeing so many more Teslas on the road, more than I've ever have. They're putting in charging stations everywhere. So it's like the past couple years, the infrastructure and the sales and marketing focus is on a whole nother level. Other brands, not just Tesla's getting in electric, but like what is happening? Is it just everything? People are just realizing that this is the future. Like, just kind of give us a walkthrough of what's happening.
So it's kind of interesting what's happened over the years. In the beginning, and the big catalyst in 2018 was 2017, the Model 3 was coming out, but it was still a $50,000-$60,000 car. The last couple of years, they've been through some price wars, and now you can get a Model 3 for $30,000. A Model Y is high 30s, low 40s, depending on what state you live in. And I think people are slowly realizing how much or how little they drive. When I moved into my neighborhood, I don't know, 6 years ago, I had the only electric car, and I was the weird guy. And we were out walking last night, and I counted probably 8 or 9 of them. And like you said, it's everybody. It's not just Tesla. And it's getting to the point where now it's not just shitty, like just garbage compliance vehicles. It's like, hey, the Mustang Mach-E is a pretty good car. Nissan's got the Aria. Like, there's different cars out there that are actually awesome vehicles. So the price wars definitely helped. The used market actually absolutely tanked because of the price wars. So now people are getting into Model 3s and Model Ys for $20,000-$30,000 when these cars used to be $40,000 to even $70,000. So price wars were a big part of it. Infrastructure is getting better. And there was so much resistance in the beginning. So I did charging infrastructure 10 years ago for Tesla, literally door knocking, trying to give away charging stations for free. Goodwill with no contract, no lease in place. And Tesla was giving away $2,500 per charger in install money. So they could get it completely free, and they could yank it out the next week and sell it if they wanted to. Literally nothing holding them to that. And nobody wanted it. It was so hard for me to give those away for free.
Gas cars are sticky. Gasoline's sticky in this country. It turns out that like when you're the largest natural resource in the world that you produce and you're like the king of, you're like, no one's like, man, now if we had cobalt mines here, we'd probably be like, yeah, man, like
cobalt for everybody.
100%.
Yeah. Well, for one good thing, you bring up cobalt. That's like the nastiest metal in batteries. That's not in batteries anymore. And lithium iron phosphate, they got rid of cobalt. So there isn't kids mining in Africa for this stuff anymore. But nobody cared about cobalt before. They use it to process gasoline. It's been in your cell phones, your laptops, and like nobody cared because it wasn't a talking point. All of a sudden, it fits the motive, so it's bad. But nobody cares about fair trade stuff. All of our house is from China and Indonesia and Pakistan. Like all of our clothes, like everything is made in sweatshops. But most people don't care about that stuff. Anyway, I can go off.
No, I don't. I like how, I like sitting on the honey pot that's like the 12 trillion barrels of oil a year we produce. Like this.
Agreed. And like,
I don't care about the sweatshop kids either, man. I just want to be at the top of the totem pole the whole time. I don't want to, I want to have my own sweat. I got my own sweatshop. I got 3 kids. I have cheap labor.
right.
I'm just kidding. Any of my sensitive people out there, I joke.
Right. Watch out.
I care about sweatshops.
You'll get canceled.
Yeah.
So anyway,
a long time ago, man.
So the automotive market is still booming. There was the tiniest blip in quarter one, and that was economy, interest rates, everything. In quarter two, it picked right back up. So they're having exponential growth. What's interesting, though, is the commercial side of that market. The Rivian vans, the Ford Lightnings, all of those. Because once you talk financial numbers, like don't even mention climate change, sustainability, none of that bullshit. Just look at your cost, your life cycle cost on this delivery van that does the same 30 miles every single day. Those Ford Transits are selling really well. The Lightnings are taking off. And it's so funny. I'm in a lot of these like blue collar groups, and there's a lot of like electricians and plumbers and all of these guys buying these things. And, they're powering welders and houses while they're working on them because they've all got 40 amp output. And these guys realize they're not going out of the state every single day to work on the job site. And so they're a lot of these companies have like a no idle policy. So you can't run the engine and run your air conditioning. Well, now it's not a problem. All the police cars in the municipalities, the city vehicles, those things never leave the county most of the time. And so electric makes sense where it makes sense is what I tell people. A cop car that idles 7 hours a day is the perfect use case for electric. Yeah, there's going to be some draw from air conditioning or heat, but you're talking 10, 15%. It's not like you're doing 80 miles an hour, 8 hours a day. It just doesn't happen. And if you do, that's where the gas car makes sense. I'm not a big fan of mandates. The market was already deciding, and this nonsense with California pushing it, but it's by 2035. Everyone's freaking out about it. But that's a long time to fix infrastructure and everything else.
Yeah.
It's just like when we had air conditioning came out or appliances came out, like the grid had to get beefed up. But electric cars, you charge them overnight when the grid's hardly used. And it's also pretty clean electricity. It's not like it's a diesel or natural gas, like a peaker plant running in the middle of the day during our peak time.
Yeah, I'm very interested in switching one of my cars to electric. It's been something I've been thinking about. I mean, I filled up my car the other day, $70. And
what could make me feel as cool and as North Florida in the electric truck market as my F-350?
A squatted Cybertruck. I've seen them
squat my shit. I'm 45, man.
Well, it's Florida. I've seen that shit.
How much I've seen it at first. At first, I was kind of like when my buddy said he had ordered one, and then I took a look at it. I was like, that thing fucking looks ridiculous.
Have you driven one?
Dude.
They are badass.
That's my whole understanding. Was like they're actually super fucking badass. Like how much they weigh like an insane amount because it's all stainless steel, right?
Yeah, and batteries. It's a lot of batteries. I mean, it's like you look at the Chevy Silverado EV. We're probably going to get one as a dedicated tow vehicle, and it's 2,000 pounds of just batteries. The battery is so damn big. But solid state batteries are closer than they've ever been. I've never gotten excited about solid state batteries because it's always this freaking pipe dream. They've never had a working cell. It's always been in the R&D labs. But now there's multiple companies out there saying, nope, we cracked the code. They're in validation testing. We're pushing them. We're charging them like they're real active cells. And that has never happened until now. So they're probably a year or two away. They're going to start off super expensive, highline stuff, but economies of scale, they're going to become affordable. And now we're going to have a battery.
I'd probably get some weird looks towing my RV with the Tesla Cybertruck.
I'm going to tell you.
What are they, 200 grand or something like that?
No, they start at like 95.
But I mean, like, what about the what's the premium? Like, what?
No, it's like 120. The Cyber Beast or whatever. It's like 120, 130. It's not bad. And I say not bad.
I got to drive one. They really have grown on me since I see some of them in these different colors, and I like that. One of them was got like a forest green or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I've seen him driving.
So badass.
And
so cool.
So in terms of thinking, Cybertrucks are the best marketing for electric vehicles because the more I see the Cybertrucks every day now, and I'm like, first of all, it was kind of like ridiculous at first, but now I'm like, you know what? I'm not looking to get a Cybertruck, but I'm interested in electric cars because I'm seeing it every day. It's the
Yeah.
best marketing for electric vehicles, and I think that was more the reason behind it, not that Elon Musk was going to sell a ton of these.
Right. And they've already worked through all of their reservation lists. You can actively order one, which means they made it through 2 million people already and have only delivered, I don't know, 10, 20,000. I don't keep track of the stats. But in terms of business purposes, the branding of that vehicle, like how polarizing it is, if you wrap that thing in your company logos, like everybody's taking pictures, everybody's looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
I would get one if they had more range, but we need something for towing. And the Silverado EV has like 450 miles of range, which you end up cutting in half when you're towing 8,000 pounds. But anyway, so all that in the automotive market, that is spurring a lot of the innovation into the electric boat world. I think it was 2 years ago, we were at the Miami Boat Show, or maybe I went to Flibs, and they had like an electric pavilion, and there was like, I don't know, I think 4 manufacturers there, and 2 of them were like low speed, 5-10 horsepower boring stuff. And right now I'm getting ready to send an email blast to 15 different manufacturers for our fall schedule to get some demos from these guys. And we're going to parade around these boats. And, we go to boat shows, and that's not our target audience. 99.9% of those people coming into a boat show isn't our target customer. Our target customer is the high net worth early adopter, even innovator. In terms of the adoption curve, we're still at the innovator stage. It's not even early adopters right now or early majority. I just, the X-Shore we just delivered, I don't know, a month ago, was the first X-Shore in Virginia. So if you equate that to the electric car timeline, you're at like 2008, 2009 when the Tesla Roadsters were rolling off the line. Like, it is very early on. But we've literally delivered more electric watercraft than anybody in the country in terms of dealerships. There's no other electric only dealerships. Duffy's been selling them forever, but they're the manufacturer, and all their stuff really stays in Newport Beach. They're awesome boats. I love them. They're great rental boats, and they're getting even better now. I was just out at the touring their headquarters in Newport Beach the other day, and we're probably going to end up getting one.
Is it your hope, Eric, to be like the primary dealer for some of these brands, like at least on in the East Coast? Or
we already are, man. I was on a call last week with the national sales manager at X-Shore, and I'm literally opening my playbook to the other dealers because how we're selling more than anybody else. Same and Vision Marine, we haven't been able to focus as much on those, just depending on what events we have. But we've sold more boats than anybody with those as well, and we've just we kind of shifted company mindset a little bit and focusing more on branding and marketing and the sales side of things. And, taking that position of SME, that expert in the field. And, I tell people, like, I've had my boating license for 2.5, 3 years. Like, I didn't grow up on boats like most of these people. I was the electric car guy that got dragged into boats, and I'm learning
this. You got to be the
day.
electric boat guy podcast.
Yeah, so we're going to start one. I just hired 2 videographers. One does longer form documentaries, and one of them is the short form stuff. But when you think about different markets and different audiences, and when they roll out, whether it is, Bluetooth or cell phones or AI or, whatever it is, it's not often someone gets an opportunity to be that subject matter expert, the first to market, the first one to get out there with the content. And if you look on YouTube or, Instagram, there's nobody really doing it. We've got more boats than anybody. We're selling more than anybody. And we just need to start creating content like crazy. But I had 2 videographers come on 2 weeks ago, and we're going to start hitting it hard with all forms of social media.
Yeah, it was something that we talked about on our last conversation, Eric. And, and we didn't even get into this piece of it, but you have to think about like even like jet skis, right? Like when jet skis first got started, like I don't know if you've ever ridden a stand-up jet ski, but they can be incredibly difficult to get up on.
Yeah,
there's nobody out there that goes when they first got on, like, you know what? I'm going to get 50 of these things and I'm going to start a rental. Like, it had to get some adoption in the 80s. And this is where like Florida, why water sports, because jet ski used to be like a sport. You'd say there was like a stand-up jet ski video game you could get. But when this stuff started happening, you started seeing innovations. Like, again, parasail came out in like the late 80s, and it was this cool thing that nobody really knew about, and they started offering rides. And so water sports, like, we saw a little bit of innovation with Hydroflight, and unfortunately, I think the guy marching in that, and who knows, man, maybe electric would have been the answer for Hydroflight, and unfortunately, just didn't see a lot of. It's all out of adoption early. A lot of the problem was it got sold not as like this fun thing you could do, but it got sold as a business, and I don't think either the manufacturers, the distributors, and even the operators really knew what they were doing. They got sold on this idea that you could start up this business, 30 grand, get through the door. And those are always when you have a low financial barrier to entry, you have every knucklehead. So the market got saturated. No one really knew what they were doing. You had jet board instructors that, you know what I mean? So I see all this because Greg and we've been talking about, like, I think like thematically what this year's conference sort of is. And it really is, it's like the future. And so as you see like more regulatory and a higher regulatory environment in the space in Florida, less insurance options as it spreads out throughout the rest of the country, because it affects Florida, it kind of affects everyone. You kind of see like, well, like what's next? And as you and I talked about on the phone, and Greg and I have sort of been talking about, as I said, this year's conference, it's like, what's the future of water sports? Well, people want to get on the water. I think you start to see more of these curated experiences that still get people on the water, aren't commodified to the point of where it's like, well, yeah, everyone's got a jet ski. What's the difference between you and operator B? And I think you see a diversification on probably all of the waterways of, not just you doing the event, but a couple, and most of them are attendees. But we talk a lot about how tikis have really saturated up here, and people are really just looking for experience. And I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, is like, you guys aren't necessarily looking to be like your typical boat rental. You guys are headed toward more of like a branded experience, is what you guys are seeing, at least at your marina, correct? And in your marina.
100%. And to be honest with you, man, we've pulled all of our resources from the rental side of things, because I can crush it in a year and make, we've got a shorter season here. I'll make, I don't know, $40,000 or so on one of these boats, call it 30 grand. Once we're stabilized, I can make that off of we make 20% of margin on these big boats if we sell them at retail. So on a $300,000 boat, I'm making $60,000.
Right.
So I'd much rather focus our marketing dollars, our training, and our resources on sales versus the rentals. We've had this conversation multiple times in the last couple months. Like, does it make sense to keep rentals? If we fund it accordingly in terms of marketing staff, give it its own rental manager, and we net, $15,000 a boat, like, is it even worth it? And we determined that in terms of a marketing sense, it is for us, but it's also, I have meetings on the water. I don't do a meeting locally unless it's on the water, typically, unless the weather sucks. But that experience side of things, and just getting them the exposure to that, it's like, oh man, these boats don't suck. You think 6 miles an hour, it's pretty boring, but like, people love it out there, and half of them don't even realize it's electric. It's the experience. Like you said, I mean, we've been partnering with a bunch of different, just locally owned businesses, anything from, a brewery with their mug club and they do a beer release, but they'll sell out 4 boats on a weeknight. I mean, we partnered with a smoke shop, and he has his little VIP list of people, and he sold them per seat and gave everybody a pre-roll. And, he literally sold out our boats on a Wednesday night when normally we wouldn't have hardly any rentals. So we're still going to keep pursuing that side of things, but really we're focusing on sales, expansion. We're going to be in a couple states next year. I've got Willoughby Marina that we kind of skipped over. We bought that when we were still in the due diligence for the other marina. It was a completely in disrepair. We're going to turn it around, but it'll be like a $20 million project by itself. So I need to stabilize this and scale it accordingly enough to where I can pay attention to some other things too. We have other businesses too that I'm kind of neglecting.
Great. Well, Eric, we're gonna stop there, and obviously this conversation is going to be continued in our Facebook group or also at the port too. So just keep in mind, Eric is going to be doing electric boat rides on Tuesday of the port, the 22nd, and you can actually sign up for those rides currently. If you have the schedule for the port, which you can find at watersportpodcast.com, there's a QR code, and you can start signing up for those rides. We're doing them between 5 and 8 o'clock, I believe.
I'll actually be captaining all of them, because
Yeah.
I would be your typical bareboat electric boat charter guy. Tattoos, bad attitude, sunburn, sunglasses around my neck. So yeah, I'll be chartering all of them. So
Well,
I love it.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not
Eric,
driving any boats.
if anyone needs to get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
Definitely, yeah. Instagram, the Electric Boat Dude. I'm on Facebook, Erick Pinzon Jr. But yeah, happy to chat all things electric boats, and whether that's sales, rentals, or repowers. I'm an open book. We try and share everything.
Email if they want to actually have a conversation with you or buy a boat from you.
Yeah, owner at electrifiedmarina.com.
There you go. There you
Cool.
go. You're like,
All
follow
right.
me on Instagram. Like, man, they want to fucking buy one from you, man.
And honestly, I mean, my cell number, anybody that wants it, 757-453-5870. Text me first, because I'm probably going to be tied up in a meeting, but I'd love to chat with anybody about electric boats. There's not many of them out there.
Cool.
I
Yeah,
love
he's
it,
our
man.
he's our electric boat expert official. All right.
Yeah, man. And as always, keep it awkward.
Keep it awkward.